used to be that you'd gain status by being good at math or being a good quarterback. And now it's by being, unfortunately, good at being oppressed. My name is Justin Kite, and this is my story. I'm a former public school teacher. I taught social studies for 10 years. Now I'm a writer at PragerU. I was born in Laramie, Wyoming. When I was 13, my family moved to Texas. My parents were also active in the local Democrat Party. Growing up in Texas, it was really kind of unique and interesting to be known as the Democrat family. Values that were very important to my parents, and I think that really influenced their politics, were justice and fairness and truth. My mom always told me the reason why I was named Justin was because of justice. She wanted to instill in me and my little sister that things weren't fair for everyone and that we should try to fix that. I am a child of the 90s and grew up with after-school specials where a teacher made a difference, whether it's Michelle Pfeiffer or Mr. Turner in Boy Meets World. When the opportunity to become a teacher presented itself to me, it felt like a natural fit. I didn't go into it thinking I want to teach this type of kid or in this type of school. I just wanted a job and knew that inside of public schools I'd be able to make a difference. But I got the job that was like, we had riot police, metal detectors. These were the types of schools that you hear about on the news. And they ended up on the news a couple times while I was there. It's really interesting to step into that environment as a white guy that wears J. Crew stuff. Just by walking on campus, I was interesting to most of my students. When I could talk to them about sneakers and hip hop and basketball, then it was like, whoa, I'll listen to what he has to say about history class. I was raised with a left-wing ideology, and I was really excited to be a public school teacher and be surrounded by left-wing ideology. About 3-4 years into my teaching experience, I started noticing a different feeling. Public schools are becoming more and more politicized, and teachers are told that passing kids on through should have gender or racial components. But I didn't like it from the get-go. At first, it was my fellow teachers who thought that I was problematic because I wasn't operating the way that they were. Over time, I started seeing it from my students, and that became heartbreaking. Where the students were starting to not jive with me was how I held them accountable. No matter what, you always knew going into my classroom that you were going to get a fair shake behaviorally, and you're going to get a fair shake academically. Our students are being conditioned right now that, dependent upon the intersectional boxes that they can check, they get to resist any type of bad grade, any type of pushback towards behavior. They're learning how they can play their different victim cards to then, gain status. It used to be that you'd gain status inside of school by being good at math or being a good quarterback. And now it's by being, unfortunately, good at being oppressed. It really hurts the underperforming kids, the kids that get the C, because they get rewarded for not working. And that leads to trouble down the road. High achievers, they get propped up as valedictorians and salutatorians, and they've got straight A's and everything, but they've never been asked to critically think. They receive, scholarships to go off to state U or whatever, and they fail miserably. The school where I was, our attrition rate for you graduated here as a senior, but then failed out as a freshman in college was just ridiculous. I would wager that less than half of our college-ready kids made it to their sophomore years because they weren't prepared. Our standards are much lower now than they were 20, 25 years ago. But I'll hear parents of AP high school students saying, but my kids are doing 2 or 3 hours of homework every night. Kids are doing a lot of work. It's just not good work. It's not make a connection from this to this and then have an independent thought. The AP curriculum squashes independent thought. It wants conformity to, frankly, a leftist worldview of this country. one that is far more indoctrinating than it is take some knowledge, put it together, and think for yourself. Not only did I see social studies curriculum was being, taught from a left-wing perspective, I noticed what should be a footnote in a U.S. history book was being blown out of proportion into an entire lesson or like a week of lessons. For example, like Zoot Suit riots or the Bracero program or Chinese Exclusion Act. All three things are black marks in American history that need to be learned from. However, spending so much time on them is political, whereas then our founding fathers are minimized into footnotes. I feel like I should have been spending a week or two on them. The kids that I think it hurts the most with the equity junk are the kids who I recognize a light bulb moment and I push them to greatness. They need a good teacher. And they're the kind of kids that go on and do fantastic things, and they had that one teacher that pushed them. And they have these amazing stories of overcoming adversity. And we're robbing those kids of that. If everybody's got to be here, which is what equity is, those kids that should be up here, they're getting their legs chopped off and they're not able to thrive. It's heartbreaking. And I didn't want to be a part of it. The day before I left for spring break, I handed in a resignation. I came up with the crazy idea to start my own school. I taught 8 sixth grade boys in a one-room schoolhouse kind of situation. And in the course of trying to create all this curriculum for my little school, I found a PragerU video. And I was like, man, this is so cool. This was so great. But it wasn't on the level for my guys. And so I'd watch a PragerU video about certain topics and then kind of like knock it down to 6th grader level. And I was thinking, man, we need this for kids. And about the same time, I'm listening to a podcast. Dennis Prager is getting interviewed, and I didn't know who Dennis Prager was. Mr. Prager was asked, how do we teach U.S. history in a way that will fight like the woke people? He said, just teach it truthfully. Just teach the honest truth, and that is pro-American. And I was hooked. And so I remember I pulled over to the side of the road even, and was like, I'm gonna contact them. And you had an opening for a job that I could do. We learn about really kind of intense topics, but we make them kid friendly. I used to make a difference for about 100 kids a year. And now with the work that I'm doing, the sky's the limit with how many kids can be reached and how many families can be helped out. I really do think that we've been lazy. Being an American is a responsibility. And for too long, we've just sent our kids off to public school and said, okay, make them great. That's not gonna fly anymore. Our teacher credentialing programs are teaching teachers not to teach their subject material, not to teach it well or effectively, but how to push the agendas of school boards and teachers' unions. Parents have to be more active, students have to be more active, teachers have to be more active. If we just leave it up to leadership, the leadership is showing in real time that they will fail. Who pays for their failures? Not them, but the teachers and the parents, and then ultimately the students. There was a time when I said, run from it, or, stand up and fight. But more than anything, you just have to be active. There's no such thing anymore as being a passive American. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.